How many of you guys know about DPIN? Okay, so not a lot, I guess. Hopefully we get down to it today. So Iagon was founded in 2017. It's a Norwegian-based company. We recently moved to Zug, and our token side, our token economy is in the UAE. So we're excited about the new venture that we started here in Switzerland. So what Iagon's trying to do is solve a $1 trillion problem. There's a lot of dead weight in terms of resources. So what I mean by resources is like storage, computing across the globe. There's so much wasted resources. And what we're trying to do is basically recycle those resources. Also, there's a lot of security issues. Today we use a lot of centralized solutions like Google, AWS, Microsoft Azure. Some deem it trustworthy, some deem it untrustworthy because they're so centralized that they can share data with governments and other bodies and companies, right? But also there's a lot of breaches. Every week, every 2 weeks, we see data leaks. It's happened to big companies, governments, institutions all across the globe. And the reason for that is a lot of the servers are centralized. What I mean by that is data is in one place at a certain time, even if there's backup with governments and companies. And usually the implementation is the security cost of these data leaks. It's not because Google or AWS or Microsoft isn't secure, it's just because it requires human resources to implement that within the business. And also the compliance is very relevant these days. So 2018 is GDPR, it became very relevant in today's industry. So compliance is a big factor in terms of cost these days for enterprises. And this is why all this has increased cost for startups, for enterprises across the globe when it comes to cloud services. So what we're doing is kind of like Airbnb for storage and compute. So what DPIN is basically a distributed system. So what we're connecting the idle capacities with the end users. So the end users can be enterprises or retail, and the resources providers can also be retail or enterprise. So anyone, even on your laptops as you sit today, you have idle capacity, you can provide that to the network and monetize that idle capacity. And what we're doing and how we're using blockchain technology, and then where Cardano comes in, is the access layer. So when you're signing up, you're using Cardano wallet or layer one, as we say, and signing in and uploading the data. So that's the access layer, the security layer that we're using to access your data, upload it, and retrieve it. How we're doing it in a unique way is what we're doing is learning the behavior of each person or enterprise providing these idle capacities. So we're learning the behavior in terms of performance, uptime, trustworthiness, location, different things that might be important to these end consumers, because at the end of the day, that's what matters, is what is important to them. And thereby we create kind of a tiered system, right, in terms of allowing them to access, let's say, high performance, high uptime for certain use cases, or for example, archival data where you don't need as much performance and you pay a lower price. And how we do it is we distribute the data. So we take an analogy from, let's say, a data lake in a centralized service. I'll take that analogy. The analogy I like using is a data lake where you have a lake surrounded by a fence. And the fence is the encryption. So in a traditional server, where you can, as a hacker, in a very simple, dumbed-down fashion, you can jump over the fence, which is the encryption, and swim in the lake and collect as much information as possible. What we're doing differently with the same analogy is creating multiple mini lakes that also have a fence around it, but also the lake is completely frozen. So even if you jump over that encryption, the frozen part is the access layer on the chain, meaning that there's no way to access that unless you have the private key to access that data. And only the person with that private key can combine those frozen lakes and liquefy it and be able to simplify it. So, as I said previously, it's a huge growing industry in terms of cloud and data, right? We're using a lot of smart devices these days. it's a kind of our daily life, right? And every data is ever growing. It's also AI has become at the forefront, and AI requires a lot of data as well, right? You need to feed the data to learn. So it's an ever-growing industry, and it's expected to double in the next 4 years. Market size again, and just to show you the market size is extreme. So we're not trying to tap into the full market space, but we're trying to get a fraction of a niche part of that adoption in that specific subset that we're targeting. And it's a perfect storm for this type of idea in our view, right? So obviously it's a bias view, but in our view, there's a lot of things that are happening that make this a perfect storm, perfect option for enterprises to adopt. So to this day, we have this is a little outdated stats, and maybe the picture's not showing this. Almost 700 nodes actually. So about 30 petabytes of data availability across 52 countries. And all these are node operators that are providing their idle capacity because they have idle resources across the world. And they're earning or monetizing. So how they're earning is they're earning a token which is called IAG, and they return that, and that's a kind of a return on their idle resources. Just to go back a little bit, they also get 90% of the subscription fees. So, well, just like Airbnb takes a commission, they're providing a platform to connect homeowners with people that are looking to rent places. Here, you're doing the same thing, but you're taking a commission from the subscription fees. So if someone's using these services, Iagon, for example, gets 10% of the commission, and then 90% goes to the node operators which are providing the idle capacities. This is, I'll skip this back as well. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of idle resources. And we've gotten a lot of traction recently. So we've had a lot of enterprise adoption in terms of interested bodies that are wanting to use cases. One of them is a pilot with the Fortune 50 that we've been working about. Which they're going to be doing, they're going to run 3 storage nodes on the Iagon network and provide idle capacity from either them directly or from their businesses. They have a lot of idle capacity lying around through the business partners and themselves, and this is a way to monetize kind of a dead resource into earning something. And this is a good model for them because after, if that pilot is successful, what they could potentially do is use that internal network of distributed nodes that they're providing and provide it to all the laptops they produce globally. This way, they're kind of undercutting the market at the same time giving a cost-effective solution and monetizing their own resources at the same time. So it's a great kind of win-win symbiotic relationship in that sense. The other, I'm not sure if I mentioned that, the other company that we're working with is Wordgroup. So Wordgroup, as you probably know, is a German company that's family-owned, private, distributed, and they approached us with a problem. And this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs should know, should actually be confident about, is you're an expert in your industry, whatever that might be. And if you know, you should know your product the best. And when companies come to you with a question, they're asking you because they think that you're the expert in this space. They want to know more about it, and they want to understand how they can help their problems. And same way with Wordgroup reached out to us about a year ago. They said there's a problem in terms of monetizing IP blueprint parts. So they create 3D parts for a lot of car manufacturers, including Porsche, GM, and other car companies. And they said it's hard to monetize a blueprint of a specific 3D part because you can actually catch that image on a printer, at a 3D printer, and print as many copies as possible. So that business model doesn't work. But using this encrypted and storage and also blockchain, we're able to limit the number of prints, and only that amount of prints is principally, to prove that on-chain. This creates a new industry for them. This is something that they didn't think about before, but now it's a completely new industry that can be tapped, and they see it as a billion-dollar, type scope of industry. They see it as in a couple of years. So we're doing the MVP with them to work on this. A little bit about us and maybe the competitors in the space, and this is updated as of February 25th this year. So if you're familiar with certain DPIN projects or certain infrastructure projects, and also we added AWS also as an example, right? And we're just showing you what are the potential, let's say, target groups that which niche we're kind of targeting. And we're targeting in encryption and basically mostly in terms of one-click compliance. That's the main thing that we're trying to target is compliance. A lot of the enterprises that approach us, compliance is one of the things that they always talk about, even though it's a very boring topic for a lot of us. But it's something that needs to be implemented in anything that they adopt. But as you can see, you can take a picture of it if you like. And early on, we founded this in 2017. So I put a lot of my personal funds into this venture. In 2018, we wanted to secure it with a patent. And also, I think that a lot of people in the blockchain space think about it as open source, and advocate all of that. I'm also all for open source. But at the same time, when you're an entrepreneur and you're taking risks, I think it's also okay if you choose to protect your idea until it sees a certain fit, especially if you think it's unique, especially if you think it's different. So we took that route in 2018. We filed a provisional patent, and we, since then, we have been advanced that patent in several different jurisdictions. And this allows us to kind of build the pace that we're comfortable with, but at the same time, not being stressed about that someone can just copy with more runway and being able to do exactly the same things. This is our co-founding team. We have, right now, this is, again, it's an old slide. We have about 30 plus team members. We have the co-founders that have more expertise than myself, especially on the data science side and in terms of technical side. But myself, more coming from that stage. And the last one, I think Florian bringing up some great points in terms of, what would you say to someone that's in their shoes 10 years ago? I think that everyone that's taking this route as a startup or as an entrepreneur, there's always risks involved, right? Even when you're growing up, you have parents that tell you to guide you, don't do this, right? But you do that mistake anyhow. It happens because I think as you make mistakes, you learn. So I think that you don't try to be perfect. You cannot be perfect. And if you make mistakes, you got to learn from them and learn from the perfect. That's it. Thank you.